This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.
Hello, everybody. This is Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio. It is already October, and I don't know about you, but I don't quite, excuse me, I don't quite get how all the costumes are gone. Like, it seems like everyone's buying Halloween costumes earlier and earlier in the year. So when we go to buy costumes, it's pretty scarce. So we've had to get more and more creative as our kids get older. Of course, they are less likely to go full force right now. They're in that age of it's not totally cool. But my guess is that they'll get back into it in the next few years. But it's crazy that Christmas stuff's already out, Halloween stuff's been out, and it's almost like, okay, we're done with that, and it hasn't even been Halloween. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I think everything's too rushed. We need to slow down a little bit. And one of the ways that you can slow down is you can sit down and read a really good book. And I have an amazing author here, and, I don't mean to brag, but she is a personal friend of mine. And we've known each other for a bit. And I am super excited that she's able to be on the show today. So Gina L. Maxwell is a New York Times USA Today and #1 international bestselling author living in the upper Midwest, despite her scathing hatred of snow and cold weather. As a lifelong romance novel addict, she began writing as another way of helping enjoy the happily ever after story she's always loved. Her debut novel in 2012, Seducing Cinderella, hit the bestseller list within the first month of its release and continues to be a favorite with readers a full decade later. When she's not reading, writing, or spending way too much money on planners and office supplies, I get this. She enjoys hanging out with her son and daughter who've left the nest, snuggling with her fur babies, and dreaming of her someday to move somewhere tropical. Her latest book, The Dark King, is the first of the new series. It is out now. You can find Gina at her website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Amazon, and all of those links to those places are in the write-up of the show. Welcome, Gina. How are you, my dear?
Hi, Patricia. I've missed you so much.
I know it's been forever since I've seen you.
I know. I need to make it down there sometime.
Yes. I would guess it would be easier weather-wise because we're pretty predictable about how our weather's going to be.
Absolutely. I'll come to you. So, you don't want to come here.
Okay, fair. That's fair. But maybe like in this when it's blueberry picking season, we can go. I can come up. We could do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been writing for a while, and I know that everyone has their story about what the catalyst was to really sit down and write a story. Because you had been reading romance novels for a long time. You had loved it. You've done a lot of things. What was the catalyst that made you sit down and write that first book that was published?
The catalyst was finishing Gina Showalter's 5th book in her Lords of the Underworld series, The Darkest Path, I think it is. And when I turned that last page, I had been so invested in those characters, and I just was in awe of how someone could make me feel so much for people that not only don't exist, but cannot exist because it's a paranormal romance, right?
Sure.
And so as I lay in bed contemplating how amazing that was and how moved I was, I wondered, okay, well, if I was going to write a book, what 2 characters would I throw together that would, be perfect for each other thing? And I came up with these 2 characters, and then I was thinking about, okay, well, how do they know each other? What's their backstory? What's their conflict? Why can't they be together? And it just kind of snowballed in my own mind over the coming weeks. I would think about these characters as I was doing the dishes and taking care of the kids and, doing all the things. And eventually I was like, gosh, I just kind of want to write it down so I don't forget any of it, and then, see where the story takes me. And then, I'll have a book for myself and like for, I don't know, maybe some friends that'll read it. And so that was honestly my ultimate goal, was just to write a book for myself and my friends. I'd never, ever in my life considered being an author. It just never even occurred to me to to aspire for something like that. And so I started typing the story, and the more I wrote, the more, of course, I loved it. And then I thought, well, geez, maybe I should try to get published. What's the worst that can happen? They say no, big deal. I'm only in the same, place that I intended to be anyway. So I Googled how to write fiction well, and then I eventually Googled how to get published, and I just kind of taught myself. So it was Gina, it was reading Walter's books. That was the catalyst.
Okay. Well, and when you started in 2012, that was the year we met, but it was also pretty early, like a lot of indie stuff had started happening. And there was, being able to figure out how to navigate your way through the publishing maze was relatively limited online.
A lot of it was blogging community. Blogs were really, really big back then.
Right. So it's interesting what we can find. And then of course, Gina and I met through our San Antonio Romance Authors group, which made a huge difference too, because I think having those people that have a similar goal, and it's also good to have someone say, okay, well, that publisher is good, but maybe not that one for what you're doing. You need that.
Oh, absolutely. I could not have gotten, my first contract without the support of writer friends. Because even when, like I said, I started a blog, like my journey to publishing kind of a thing. So I started all of this in the early 2009, and I found like-minded people who were on the same journey, different stages of the journey, and then we would start swapping chapters. And the critique partners is, I think, an essential of writing and learning how to write and getting better. I remember, we would meet, and even with the San Antonio group, we would meet and we would all, read some things and then give each other, constructive criticisms and critiques and feedback. And it was just, it's priceless, honestly. Yeah,
it is. And I think it's helpful. I know people say, well, I can pay for an editor, and that's true. You can. But I also think that having several different opinions of what you're writing, I think is a good thing, because different people have different perspectives. So
absolutely,
we've all been in it to where someone's like, that was really, solid. I like this. And someone's like, but what about, everyone goes, oh yeah, that's right. It's just like, you need those different views, like different camera views on your stuff with people who care about it as much as you do. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that, but I found myself learning so much from critiquing other people's chapters. Like, because when you're looking at something through a reader's gaze, and you can see something where something could have been done better, then you take that in for your own writing. And so I learned so much critiquing others. So the critique partners or the writer groups where, you help others as well. It's totally invaluable.
Yeah. And, I'd miss it. With COVID and everything, things kind of went by the wayside. And I know that people, I know a lot of it is just exchanging pages, but I think everyone was so overwhelmed. Some people really thrived during COVID because they were home all the time, but others, like myself, who had a lot of kids at home and trying to juggle school, that didn't happen. Yeah. So hopefully everyone's starting to get back to some sort of new normalcy with it all.
Right.
And but during that time, during the pandemic, everything, you wrote this new book, The Dark King, correct?
Correct. I actually wrote it starting the beginning of this year. So I started January 10th writing it, and then I finished it March 17th, which was all in all 9 weeks, which is extremely fast for me because I'm a very, very slow writer.
But this story just took off in your head then?
It kind of had to. It was a story of opportunity, honestly. Publisher who I haven't been with in 5 years because I started self-publishing. But she came back to me and she said, I have this idea for a story, and I think you have the perfect voice for it. I really would love it if you would write it. And so we talked about it, and I said, sign me up. So
wow.
She basically said, Faye in Vegas, and we that was her, her idea, and I kind of took it from there. And yeah, I plotted it very quickly because it was like I only had a few days, because we wanted to craft the title, which means we wanted to publish it within the same year. So,
okay,
we the printer, I think, towards the end of May, and it released September 27th, which typically for print runs, you're a year to a year and a half out kind of a thing. So,
sure.
Some, depending. But yeah, we wanted to get it out quickly. So I had to write it very quickly. So yeah, but it did flow for sure. I mean, it was solid in my mind as soon as I had that thing plotted, and yeah, it flew.
Wow. So tell me about the story. Tell me, and this is the first of at least 2 books at this point.
Yeah, it'll be the first of 3 brothers. So they'll each get their own happily ever after. So this is, it's fae, but it's like urban fantasy. So it's set in our contemporary Vegas. And the premise is that 400 years ago, the one true queen of fairy, because there's the seasonal courts in the land of fairy, and then there's also the dark and the light fae. So the day and the night courts. And the day and the night court royalty kings got into an altercation at like the one true queen's one of her parties, and that was enough to piss her off to where she banished both courts to the human world forever. She exiled them. So she kind of spits them out into the Joshua Tree area, what we know as Joshua Tree out in the desert. And they are they start by that's my cat. He's not happy with the other ones. They war for about 100 years, and then they get new kings for each of the courts that are more peace, whatever. So they, have a treaty. And so the day court goes one way. They agree to just stay away from each other, kind of a thing. The day court goes one way, and what we now know as Phoenix, Arizona. And the night court went into the Mojave Desert, and they built up what we know as Vegas. And it makes perfect sense, right? Because the court and the dark fae are all about debauchery and deviance and, the night. And what is Vegas but all of that, It just makes perfect sense. And he even says, Caden, the main character, the hero, he says, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas is one of the most genius marketing slogans we ever came up with, because people come here to literally break their own rules. Nothing is off limits in people's minds when they go to Vegas, yeah, he just, so now they've got this, so him and his 2 brothers basically rule Vegas because they own like almost everything in the city. But then he also is the king of the night court. He's the dark fae king. And so he has basically 2 empires that he has to run. Well, along with exiling the 2 courts, the one true queen also placed several curses upon both courts. And one of the curses is that the royal bloodlines of each court, if they are mated, and married, if they are more than a stone's throw away from their mate, their bodies start to shut down and they will die. Wow. There's a reason for that. It has to do with the whole thing that instigated everything was infidelity back in the, in the fairy world, between the 2 courts. So, he meets this human woman named Bryn, and he's drawn to her and he doesn't know why. And they have a great night together, and they wake up married in Vegas. It's the
sweet,
the quintessential accidentally married in Vegas, and she's like, oh my God, what do we do? And he's like, yeah, I'd like to know the same thing. He thinks she's like drugged him somehow. Bryn she's from Wisconsin. She's got a little bit of me in her, and she is feisty as heck. And she's like, yeah, I so put Rohypnol in my purse on the off chance that you would hit on me. She's like, you were the one that made all the, like, okay, fair point. But, so it comes to pass that, now that they're mated, he can't be away from her. So he essentially kidnaps her and keeps her in the manor, and he's like, I can't let you go. But he's never very truthful about why he's doing any of this. So it's a kind of basically a beauty retelling, grumpy king, in his manor, kidnaps the girl who loves to read and cats. And so, and she does any of his crap, and she, eventually wins him over, and there's a bunch of, kinky stuff in the middle there too. Yeah. So.
Sure. Because, what else are you going to do when you're stuck in a castle?
Right. Exactly.
In Vegas.
Exactly. So yeah, it's a fun story.
Did you always want to write really spicy, or was that just something that your characters? Because you had read Gina Showalter, and I understand that, and so, but I mean, was it something that you said, yeah, these characters are going to like open door it on the page? Was that intentional, or was that just something that developed as the characters progressed?
No, for me, it's always been intentional. I don't begrudge anyone their heat levels, or, even if you prefer closed door, to each their own. Right. And thank goodness, all sorts of heat levels for all sorts of readers. But for me personally, sex can be just sex, but when you're intertwining it with a relationship where there's going to be a happily ever after, or at least a happy for now, the sex part is going to progress the emotional connection one way or another, whether for the good or for me, it's important to show that, the emotions, the internal thoughts, how the relationship shifts with that. So I never gloss over it. And because it's just my personal preference, it's also super explicit and spicy.
Yeah. I think that, like you're saying, everybody's heat level is different. And then, of course, you have readers that are writers, and they don't necessarily they don't necessarily write saucy, but they like to read saucy. And then you have people who write saucy and like to read sweet. So, it's like there's just all of these different possibilities out there, which is, I think, amazing for so many readers and writers, for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, the second book is going to be about one of the brothers, and then the third book is the third brother, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then when is the second and the third book coming out?
Second book will be out end of July next year, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe book 3 will be out next fall. I think October, but I don't know. So they should both be out next year.
Okay. Are you still writing those, or have you been able to finish those already?
Yeah, I am. I have written 3 chapters of The Rebel King, which is the next book. And way behind, way behind. Okay. So yeah, I will be writing my butt off for the next month. I only have about half of it plotted so far too. So yeah, who knows what happens? Not even me.
And
right. Yeah.
So yeah. Well, and sometimes it's just, some of those stories just like explode in your brain, and then other times it's just a struggle. It's like you're trying to pull teeth to get the characters to talk to you. Of course, they talk to you at 2:00 in the morning, which is not helpful.
Not helpful.
So,
or like when you are in the car, write anything down, and
So I want to switch gears a little bit. You started a series a few years ago, the Lost Boys series, which I absolutely, yes. So you wrote about Peter Pan and Wendy, and then you wrote about John and Hook. What, what else is coming out of that series?
Definitely Tink's book. It's going to be Tink and Michael. I had waited to write that book this year, but then I got this contract for the Deviant Kings, which has taken precedence. So I'm hoping that I will be able to write them next year. Because everyone has been waiting. Because Hook and the first two books released both in 2019, so it's been a hot minute since I've continued that series. So everyone's been waiting for a while. But I definitely want, and I originally did plan on writing a story for each of the Lost Boys and everything. So I had 10 books planned for that series. I don't know if we're going to do that. It all depends on any trad contracts that I get from here on out. But I would love to write one for all of them. I think, of anyone, my little orphan boys all grown up deserve, happily ever afters. So we'll see. But I do love that series at books. They're so different and from each other, but I've got a real passion for that series.
Yeah, it's definitely a different take. I mean, and if anybody hasn't read it, Pan was the first one, and then Hook.
Yeah.
And then it's very interesting. It's set in an orphanage, and there's sadly, some very dark stuff going on for the people who run it. Yeah. It really broke my heart in a lot of ways because, we adopted some children from foster care, and they were never in a group home, but I know there's a lot of children that are, and I just sit there and I think, I hope there's more people that are good for these children than awful. But I hate that there's any awful,
I know.
How hard is it to write some of those scenes? Because they're really, I mean, my heart hurts when I'm reading it. So how hard was it to write it?
It was difficult. I've only ever cried once while writing, and it was writing, I think it was chapter 22 of Hook's book. And just a quick side note, I did rebrand those books. So now the titles, Pan's book is Lost and Found, and then Hook's book is Lost in Darkness. I decided to go with the lost words for the titles. But, Hook's especially is pretty dark and tragic. The reason that I chose an orphanage is because this is not a fantastical world. It's set in a contemporary modern world. So, where would a bunch of boys with no parents be? Well, they would be in an orphanage, and then I don't know. It just kind of spoke to me that they didn't grow up in the greatest of environments. And then how does that affect them? How does that shape who they are? And it affected each of them differently. And Tinkerbell is also, so it's all the boys, it's Peter, the Lost Boys, 6 Lost Boys, Tinkerbell, and Hook, and Starkey and Smee, so 3 of the pirates. And they all grow up like this. But it was hard. It was hard in some of those because I write it in dual timelines. So you see that some of those scenes, and I think it speaks to how even if we don't have something that is exactly like that in our past, we all have some moments or traumas that we come from, and how does that shape us, and how do we move on from there, and what does that path that kind of situation take us on to where we go to become our better selves and rise above that.
Right.
So
Yeah, I think it's also beautiful that you have Wendy and Michael and John, and they're the very idealistic children that they are in the original series. But it's that reflection that the kids who are in the orphanage, Peter and Hook and all of them, Peter and John and Wendy see the positive of these kids who've had nothing but negative, and it's heartbreaking to watch and beautiful to watch that John and Michael and Wendy so believe in the good of them that they're willing to risk everything just to get them to see it, even if they don't end up together. And that's love. I mean,
absolutely.
How else could you write that?
Yeah. Yep. I do. It's such a unique series, and there's so much to it. There's so many layers. There's so much depth to those stories, and so I want to be able to give the other ones their stories too. So that's definitely on my list.
Yay!
I'm
super excited about that. You can tell. Yeah. And it's funny. Well, and I keep thinking of what's the actor's name from Once Upon a Time is Hook, and Killian. Yeah, that's what I keep thinking of when I've read it, and I'm like, wow, that would be really. So yeah. But I mean, I love it. So I'll be watching out for that next one. So you've got the traditional contract going, and then you've with the Dark King series, and then you've got your indies, which is like you're talking about the Lost Boys. What other things do you have on your plate that you're trying to juggle right now, writing wise?
I do want to get out. So I got back. There's a romantic comedy book that I had written years ago called Tempting Her Best Friend, and I got the rights back to that, I think, this year or possibly the year before, and so I rebranded it and recovered it, retitled it, so now it's called Betting on Her Best Friend, and it's a friend's book, and so I also have a book that I wrote based on my little sister's real life love story, and I originally called it Ask Me Again, but because it's also a friends to lovers story, I thought, well, hey, this could be kind of a line type of thing, so I rebranded. I've been planning on rebranding that one as well, and everyone has always wanted, from Tempting Her Best Friend / Betting on Her Best Friend, there's twins in there. So the hero has a twin sister, Maddie, and everyone's always wanted Maddie's story, but I never wrote it. So I figure, okay, well, now I'll write Maddie's story, make that book too, and then I'll on my sister's story, Ask Me Again, and I'm retitling that one to be Friend Zone Fling, and that will be book 3. So it's all friends to lovers stories. So I just need to write that second book, Maddie's story. I have started it. I've got a few chapters in it already. So I just need to finish that one, and then I'll have a line of friends to lovers stories of at least 3 books. So I definitely want to get that out. And I also have, years ago, there was an app. I don't even know if it's still out. It might still be out. It's an app called Hooked. And it was one of the first apps that were out there where it was like serialized reading. But it was not in the style of an actual book. It was in the style of text messages. So it was almost like you picked up your friend's phone and you opened up their text messages app and you were like reading through their conversation with someone else. Everything was written in text messages with like sparse lines of narrative in between. And so I had written 2 very sexy stories called Sex Operator and Sex for Fun or something like that, in these formats, and each of them are about 10,000 words each. And I have the rights back to those, and those were huge hits on the app and things of that nature. So I would like to flesh out the narrative part of it and then publish those and add those onto my Steamy Shots line, which are erotic novellas, for when you just need a little bit of steam and then get on with your life kind of a thing. So
right.
That's what I've got.
Like a lunchtime reads?
Yeah. Yep. You can finish them probably in about 30 minutes or so. They're only like anywhere from 10 to 20,000 words, but depending on the story. Right. But yeah, my motto for the line is get in, get off, get on with your life.
Nice.
Because
there you are.
They're hot.
Is it hard to write shorter? Because I know that you write lengthy. Is it hard to write shorter?
Oh my gosh, it's the worst, Patricia. It's the absolute worst. I'm very verbose in life and also because I write how I speak, how I would speak. You know what I mean? And I see things. I see the stories as like a movie in my head. And because I want to make sure that the reader sees exactly what I see, sometimes I get a little too descriptive. And it's so hard to write short for me. So hard. Succinct is not my talent, not my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So you have a harder time. I've got a very tightly plot. And my shorter ones are very formulaic. I've got, boy meets girl, boy tempts girl,
right. Girl tempts boy.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so for non-writers, it's when you have a short story like that, you basically have time to only talk about two people. There's like hardly any other characters involved. There's just really no room.
No.
It's like trying to cram, you have a smart car, which has two seats, or you have a van. Well, the van's the long book and the smart car is the short. So, yeah.
Right.
So, but you still have to pack the same amount of crap in each place. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so true. And it helps if they all each other, because then you don't have to do the whole, if they've already got some history together, it's way easier.
Yes, for sure. Yeah. But then again, you're like, well, you don't want everyone to have history. You want to have some, newness, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's mixing it all up for sure. And seeing how it fits. What character have your readers most responded to?
So I would have to say there's two. Reed Andrews from Seducing Cinderella is, I think, probably now, because he's been around for 10 years, he has a bit of an unfair advantage, but he's definitely a fan favorite. There's just something about his character that people just absolutely love. And I attribute to partially why it hit the list within a month. Everybody loved Reed Andrews. Couldn't stop talking about Reed Andrews, who, funny enough, I actually modeled personality and physical appearance after the model Parker Hurley, who was on the original covers. And then the next one would be Hook's character, Captain James Hook.
Okay.
He's it's hard not to love him. It's hard not to love a man who thinks he's the villain and wants everyone else to think he's the villain when really he's the hero of the whole thing. He's the only character I've ever dedicated a book to, and I think he probably always will be the only one. He's just something special. Yeah.
I hate to use the word wonderfully tortured, but I mean, he's tortured on so many levels. Yeah. But not, obviously bad things have happened. It's not like you purposely, vindictively tortured him. It's just that it needed to be complicated.
And I didn't even know that was going to be his story until I was writing it, until I was writing Pan, the first book, Lost. And his character said something, and I thought, oh, no. Oh, you poor thing. I know what happened to you. And that's, you know, he didn't intentionally set out. He just, something that he said, and it was the way he said it, and I thought, oh, dang, this is going to be rough. Okay. So. Isn't
it amazing when characters do that? I mean, I know people, I know there's been people who are like, are you okay? Characters talk to you. It's like, no, really, they will do that. They will just start going. And it's bizarre, but I mean, it obviously to someone who doesn't do this, but I mean, still, it's very interesting. I'm going back and branding and rewriting some of my Tuscany books, and I've gone back and some of the characters, I'm like, oh, well, yeah, they would say this. You know, I think 10 years ago, you're a different writer. You and I both are. So when you go back, you can kind of flush those conversations out a little bit more. But like you, I'm like, this is a really long book. But a lot of that is dialogue. You know, it's like boom, 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 boom. So it makes it look like it's not 1,000 pages. But, I mean, it feels like that. And you're like, should this be shorter? But then it's really just because of the dialogue.
Yep.
You know, so, yeah. It's but it's fun. It's fun to go back and explore those characters.
Oh, yeah. There's been times where I've reread Seducing Cinderella, and I'm like, oh, well, why didn't he say this? You know, and then, so I'm like, no, Gina, stop it. Stop, you know, inventing the wheel. Just let it go.
Would you ever do, like, 10 years later with any of your characters? Like just a short novella or something to let your readers know how they're doing?
Yeah. What I did with Seducing Cinderella, when I got the rights back to it and recovered it, and I added, there had been a couple of scenes that I had written like as bonus scenes years ago. And so I added those into the book. And then the thing that I got hit on so much for that book when it was originally published was there was no epilogue. I'm a paranormal romance reader at the time. And paranormal romances back then, for whatever reason, epilogues weren't a thing. Like you just ended it with the last chapter, and then you knew that they were happy, and then you moved on to the next one in the series kind of thing. So I didn't know the power of the epilogue in category romance until I mistakenly write one. And everyone's like, well, what happens 6 months from now, from a year from now? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like still happy. I wrote it, but they're happy. I had no idea. So I wrote everyone. I wrote an epilogue that was 8 years into the future. So it shows them with their little kids. And it was fun to revisit them, you know? So yeah, I would definitely do that. In fact, I have to actually write. Yeah. I have to write.
That's actually right. Go ahead.
I have to write a bonus scene that's going in. So the Dark King is going into the bookish box, and I have to write an exclusive scene that's going to go into that version. And now I just remembered that for the first time, and it's due on the 20th. So I will be working on that today.
Sweet. So this interview has definitely been positive.
Yeah. On many levels, but none so far as that one. Thank you.
So you have a week. We'll all be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. I think that it's funny because it's kind of like Marvel movies. You know, it's like, where are the end credit scenes? Because it's if we've watched older movies with our kids, like I'd say, more than 15 years, the kids are like, okay, what happens next? And like, that's it, it's over. And you're like, what do you mean? Like, Marvel's just really spoiled us. All of these end credit scenes.
Absolutely. What do you mean there's no end credit scene?
Like, what do you mean there's no what? Like, no, you have to stay through that. But I was laughing because, when they were doing that whole Avengers arc, with everything, and I think we were sitting for Captain Marvel, or I don't know which one, but people are leaving right at the beginning of the credits, and we're all looking around like, has nobody learned anything at this point?
I know.
Like, you stay. Yeah.
Yep. Austin and I do the same thing. I see all the Marvel movies with my son, Austin, who's 21 now. And, yeah, we do the same thing. We're looking at him like amateurs, you know? Like, do they not know how this works? We're sitting here.
And then you're going to be confused when you go to the next one.
Exactly. I kind of did that now that I think about it with The Dark King. The epilogue is told from Tiernan's point of view, and he's the second book hero. And it's the most diabolical ending I've ever written, because it's not a cliffhanger. I don't write cliffhangers where it's, you know, from one book to the next with the same couple. However, it is kind of a cliffhanger. And so in a different way. And I knew when I read it, or when I wrote it, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to do this, and this is so evil, and everyone's going to hate me. And yep, they do.
Yes, they do. Yeah. It's funny because I've seen so many people complain, like, on different series. Well, they shouldn't leave it as a cliffhanger. It's like, but it's a series. Like, that's what happens. It's supposed to happen. It's like, I don't understand why this is confusing. But I mean, people get upset. But yeah, whatever. So
there are certain.
I don't know.
If I'm okay with cliffhangers, but I will wait until the whole series is out, because I can't take that. Like, nope. I need. That's why I binge shows. Like, now, even like when they slow release these shows once a week, like, you know, back in the dark ages, I'm like, what is this crap? Wait until the whole thing is out so I can binge it. But yeah, it's just, what it does is it just leads my epilogue for The Dark King is basically the intro that leads you into book 2. But of course, book 2 isn't out yet, so everyone, what? So yeah, but it's it's a pretty cool ending.
Well, it's one of those, feather in your cap. Yeah. Mix things up a little bit, so that's good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for being on today. I so appreciate you.
Oh, thanks, Patricia, for having me. It's always lovely talking with you.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we will see each other here soon. I would love that. You always have a place to stay, of course, when you're down this way. And then I will try and make it up there in a summertime or something. We'll show me that area of the world that I've never been to. So my sister-in-law went to college in Wisconsin, and
cool.
So she's from Chicago. Yeah. So I never realized it, and it's just one of those perspective things, because we had some neighbors years ago that were talking about having to go to a funeral. And I was like, oh, well, you know, somebody had passed away and they were going to go to a funeral in Michigan. And I said, oh, well, are you leaving? Do you need us to watch your dogs or whatever, water your plants or whatever? She goes, oh, no, we're not going until the... And I was like, okay. And they said, because they can't dig in the ground. It was like February. And I was just like, oh, holy crap. You can't do that. I mean, just a different way of life, you know? Even just regionally. So,
yep.
It's good to travel. It's good to get out and run around. So, yeah.
It is. Yeah, but I definitely suggest from May-ish, June-ish to September. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes. That's a fair assessment. I will take it.
Yeah.
So, everybody's been listening, I've been talking to Gina L. Maxwell. Her latest book, The Dark King, is out now. I found my copy at Target, so it might be there if you go look. You can also find Gina at her website, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, and Amazon. All of the links are in the write-up of the show. Please come back and talk to us about your next book when it comes out.
Oh, I would love to. Absolutely.
Yay! This has been Patricia W. Fisher with Readers Entertainment Radio. Everybody, keep on reading.
This show brought to you by Circle of Seven Productions, www.cosproductions.com. Please be sure to subscribe and welcome to our circle.